Well, I guess I gotta say something. Got it. I have a great idea. Let's learn something. All right, so I'm a Sony shooter, as maybe many of you are. And one of the things that I first ran into when I was working with things like color grading was what to do with S-Log footage. It can be kind of intimidating at first. It's flat, it's gross, it's got no color, just super uninspiring. And so I thought, hey, why not teach you guys how to color grade S-Log footage? I prefer to shoot in S-Log 2, and I'll put my whole specs for that picture profile up here. So if you want to match up to that, you can. Now there's a few benefits for switching over to S-Log that you might want to consider, including things like dynamic range, the ability to control color better. All these things are great when you're trying to just have more control over your image when you're in post-production. And so today, I'm going to teach you how to tackle all of that good stuff. So let's get into it. So today we're working in Premiere Pro, and the footage I have here is of a recent shoot I did for a sweet local coffee company named Hitch and Bowler. So the foundation of working with S-Log footage is making sure that you expose correctly. Sometimes you'll run into situations where you think, I'm perfectly exposed. The histogram is great. But with S-Log footage, you want to make sure that you expose a little higher than you think you actually need. The reason for this is at the low end of the light spectrum in the shadows, you're going to find that S-Log produces a lot of noise. And so what we're doing here is we're simply just taking that range of light, we're bumping it up so that we're capturing the information up here. Now, people are thinking, wait, Cullen, hold on, that's gonna be overexposed up here. Well, actually, because it's such a narrow range of light when you're shooting log footage, it's actually capturing a smaller amount, but all you're doing is you're just moving it up in the spectrum. So in the end, your footage is gonna look very bright, but in reality, we're gonna be able to bring that back in post, bring this down, and now we actually have an amazing full range of light to work with. So what we wanna do is make sure that our exposure is dialed in correctly when we're actually taking the shots. That way we can avoid noise in the shadows and make sure we're capturing that full range. So I actually have an example here of where that noise shows up in this shot right here. And as you can see, in his sweater right here, I don't know if you guys can see, but that is a lot of noise. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to use some Denoiser software, but luckily it works pretty well. I use Red Giant's Denoiser, and you just slap that on. It is a computer crusher though, so your footage will run very slowly. So typically I like to put that on at the end after everything's done. That way it doesn't bog things down too much. But in the end, we'll denoise all this footage right here and it'll look great. Now moving on to grading our footage. Now here we're gonna jump over to our outdoor footage because it's very beautiful and yeah, it's great to work with. So we're gonna jump over to our color tab here because it's easy and nice to work with. We got our lumetri here on the right, and I'm also gonna be working in something called Colorista. So it's an excellent color grading software. I would highly recommend it, and I'll link it in the description below. So the first thing we're gonna do is bring contrast back into our image. Here, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna move this, increase my contrast, increase it, and till I'm happy right about there. You could also do the same thing over here under the lumetri section. You also have a curves line you could use here to give the same effect, or bring in contrasts. You could also use your contrast slider right over here. So that's an option too. Moving on now, as you can see in this image, we have like a lot of very bright whites, and I kind of want to bring some of the detail back in those. So typically what I do with S-Log footage is the first thing I do is I grab the highlights over here in lumetri. And I actually slide those down to bring back some of that detail. And as you can see there, it's like, oh yeah, that's great already. Now, in response to that, we're also losing some of the bright punchiness of the foreground of the subject of the fire here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the whites then, and I'm going to boost that up just a bit to add in some of that good contrast again. So now our background's a little bit more recovered. Our foreground here has been brought back up to a place that we like. Now next we want to bring some more shadows into this image, really make the subject pop from the background. So I'm going to take the shadows slider in Lumetri, and I'm just going to slide that right down. And as I do that, you can already see it's starting to look better. There's some color coming in to the image as we create that contrast. So the next thing we're going to do is add some color into this shot. So we can do this a number of ways, one of which is in Colorista, there's actually a saturation slider. So I'll typically bring that up a little bit to bring some color back into the shot. If you want to, you can also do that in Lumetri over here. There's a saturation slider, and bring it to a spot that you really like. So there we go. Now we have some color back into the shot. Now it may not be the colors you want yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there, don't you worry. Now, essentially, we've already de-logged our footage. Just like that, we now have footage that has contrast and it has saturation. And now it's ready to go into more of the grading process of working with the colors. So here's another little fun pro tip. As you can see here, I've applied these settings to the single clip, but I want to apply this D-log to all my shots. So what I can do is here in the video effects tab, I'm going to collapse Colorista and Lumetri. I'm going to select them both by holding Command and clicking both of them. Right click, copy those guys. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new item, right clicking on the project bin, creating a new item. We're going to create an adjustment layer. Hit OK, drag over top of all my footage. Then I'm going to click that adjustment layer, right click in the effect controls, and paste those settings. And you can see that this clip has had double effects applied to it. So we're going to click on that clip itself and just take those off. And now we're back to where we started. And now all of the footage is nicely de-logged. All right, so now we can work more specifically with the clips in terms of things like exposure, color, and that sort of thing. So now we're ready to start working with some of the actual colors and making this footage just look absolutely beautiful. So here we go. I'm actually going to work on my adjustment layer because I kind of want all the clips to look the same. I want them to be consistent and have a similar look and style. So I'm going to go into Colorista, and I'm actually going to kind of build myself a LUT. For those of you who don't know what LUTs are, it's essentially a preset for video, something that you can slap over your footage and it makes it look nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the shadows and the midtones in this shot. And first of all, I'm just going to take my shadows, I'm going to drag it towards the teal just a bit. We're kind of just working on a teal and orange look here, very classic, very simple. And I'm going to take my midtones and go towards the oranges. Now that we've adjusted our shadows and midtones a little bit, we can scroll down here to our HSL tab. And here's where it's really fun. We get to start playing with the colors. And typically when I'm starting to work on this part of it, I try to pick a clip that has a lot of color in it already. So I can really see how my adjustments are going to impact different colors. So I'm gonna pick a clip, maybe actually this one. So we're gonna quickly just change the exposure on this, bring up the exposure there a bit, add a little more saturation. Now we're gonna start adjusting our colors. So we click on that adjustment layer, we go down to our HSL tab, and I'm gonna just start tweaking colors. So I'm gonna take my blues, and I'm actually gonna move those towards my teal. And there we go, as you can see in the jean jacket, it's kind of giving it a little more of a teal hue. We're gonna take our greens, and we're gonna just move them also a little bit towards teal. Kind of gives it a little of a cooler feel out here in the greens. We're gonna take our yellows and we're gonna move that towards orange just a little bit. And we're gonna take our reds and move those also just slightly towards orange. All right, right there, we're starting to look good, starting to look awesome. You know, I even think that this shot could probably use a little more saturation. So I'm just gonna play with that. Boom, right there. And so obviously you can tweak these clips a lot more, fine tune them by actually going into each clip, making fine adjustments based on maybe colors that appear. You know, sometimes one shot will have a certain color that's just very obvious and you kind of want to desaturate that or get rid of it. So you can go ahead and do that and make all the fine adjustments that you need to. But as you can see here now, we have a basic grade over all our footage, and we're really liking how that's starting to look. So that's the basics of how I color grade my S-Log footage, and in the end, your footage can look a little something like this. I also want to say thanks for being here, thanks for watching this, and if you haven't already had a chance, please subscribe below. I really appreciate all of you who have taken the time to watch this, and hopefully you've learned something too. That'd be pretty awesome. So let me know in the comment section below if there's any topics that you would like me to tackle. I'd love to get some feedback as well. So see you guys in the next vlog, I guess. All right, bye.